I guess the distortion of the last, the contract, the 5-year contracts is the biggest thing that gets me, and it amazes me that people would use public servants, and I don't care whether they're the electricians or the snowplowers or the police or the fire, as kind of political pawns, to throw out a $200 million number that they don't even use, just for political gamesmanship. And I guess we work for politicians, so that's the arena we work in, and toughen up and accept it. But it's pretty hard when you look and you go, you don't even use that. You're using it purely for political purposes, and you're attacking the men and women who are working in patrol cars every night, in the stations, in prevention, at the mechanic shop, at the training center, wherever they're contributing, to this public safety team. You're attacking them.
Right, and you.
And one more thing on top of that, you're the commander-in-chief, basically, of the city. If you want to look at it, it would be like a president going to the military who got a 3.9 raise in 08, or 3.9 in 2009 and 3.5 when we took a 0 and then a 2.9, and going to them and saying, the whole deficit's your fault. We need to cut your pay. You guys make too much. We're going to have to shut all this down and do all this. If the commander-in-chief of the United States did that to the U.S. Armed Services, there'd be outrage. Yet the commander-in-chief of Anchorage has done that here in Anchorage.
Well, that's why I wanted you here. I've got plenty of outrage. And I think people do need to stand up, because if you dial 911, it doesn't matter if you're calling from a trailer or a 10,000 or 20,000 square foot house on Hillside, you guys show up and you care just as much. This can't be political fodder. And then on top of that, to find out, oh, we have a $10 million surplus, it's a little insulting. Vince, you've got 30 seconds. We have to go to a break.
Yeah, which camera's on? I just wanted to say I'm outraged and insulted by the figures that they throw out and the way that they try to cast aspersions about these lavish contracts, because it's just patently false. They've over-exaggerated those numbers so big. I mean, like Tom just said, there was a perceived budget deficit, which we come to find out really isn't necessarily the case. And what was the first thing these guys did was they agreed to a freeze, to a 0 in that first year. So that was where they were projecting a cost of I don't know how much, 40 or 50 million, which was based on falsehood. So when you total it up, I've not been able to look anywhere and see where they even get close to the numbers that they're talking about. And these guys, what they just said, I mean, they're looking at comparables, what other people make, and how do you put a price on that? These guys are in the ballpark, no different than any other communities that are out there doing the same thing, that are negotiating agreements, but yet they're chastised and taken apart.
Well, they're painted as something they're absolutely not. Absolutely. But I would expect that from people that are painting with what they're painting for. We have to go to a break.
Yeah.
I will let Vince talk during the break, and then when we come back, we'll let the other two people talk. All right, we'll be right back. All right. Oh, the sincerity. It's as though there's no applause sign at all. I love that. Hey, you can be part of our audience here, 5:30 on Thursdays. We tape upstairs at Bernie's Bungalow. There's cocktails, there's dinner, and you never know. There could be somebody on the board that you want to ask a question to, or God only knows. So anyway, please come and join us. My guests here, Derek Schur in the middle, Vince Beltrami down there, Tom Westcott is here. And you were telling me on the break, which I hate leaving you out at home, so I'm going to make him say it all over again. Talk about negotiating with Begich, some of the things that you gave up and that people would never know.
A lot of the outcry, that it's grown on the the internet or the talk radio was Begich did these sweetheart deals early, and they're really referring, I think, to police and fire, because our contracts were good until June of 09. Well, what happened is the city brought in new health care plans in 07 during our old contract, and we had an old health care plan that was really, really, really good. And Mayor Begich at the time was trying to save money in the healthcare area, and we tried to make a switch, and it didn't happen in time for 2008. Well, when 2009 rolled around, they were really banking on closing this old plan that was really good.
And expensive to the city.
Expensive to the city.
Police and fire were the only two bargaining units left in it.
Police and fire were the two that left in it.
They've taken everybody else out of it.
So to have more plans, basically to have 9 options instead of 3 or 4 options, because you have other unions out here, is more expensive to administrate, and the benefits were more expensive in this plan.
Right.
So one of the big things that they wanted in negotiation is they wanted us to surrender that plan, get out of it, and get into the new group plans.
Which wasn't as Cadillac-y as they call it,
Was-
or as
they're-
premium. Or
we still have good coverage, and you won't hear me complain about it, but it's certainly not as good as what we had. And you'll hear a lot of our members who are affected by it will tell you so. But the idea was get these plans shut down before January 1st of '09. And that's why we went into negotiations to get this done. And when everybody kept saying, oh, it's a sweetheart deal at the end, no, it saved the money. And if you look at the city's health care in 2008, 2009, and 2010, health care has been pretty much flat over 3 years, which
you mean it's maintained its same
Cost.
expense to
the medical
city?
inflation has been pretty much non-existent.
Didn't California just get hit by 39%?
Some of the
I mean,
insurers down there
right.
did raise their rates.
Right.
I think the states went up 19% this year alone. I think the federal government says their medical inflation was 15% on health care.
So to give you a 5-year contract, part of it was, okay, then we are going to need to save a bunch of money. That doesn't show up and isn't talked about certainly by the right, like, oh, well, they renegotiated, saved money, and still had something, even though they gave up something for them to get a 5-year
Exactly.
deal.
That's correct. You were able to close down all those old plans, so it lowered your administrative costs, and you were able to put us in plans that, while still good, you won't hear me complain once again, are not what they used to be, and they save the city money by us being in them over what we had previously.
So does the amount of money that the city saved on this insurance policy, let's just say for APD and for AFD, for you guys, is there any Anchorage Fire Department, AFD,
Sorry.
talk slow to Vince.
Yeah. I got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understood
Whatever.
too. We like acronyms.
So in those two, how many people are in those two organizations, those two unions?
We started off with about 540.
So 540 there.
And we were maybe 380, 390 at top. We're down quite
So
a bit.
less
So
than
just
1,000
under
people.
1,000. Yeah.
But whatever the savings was to the city that were negotiated away in healthcare benefits, is that, I mean, do people ever talk about that?
I never hear it brought up.
That was negotiated away?
Yeah, Tom brings up a really good point on the medical, and I think you kind of hit on it. Medical costs are, in most places, have been climbing 3 times the other inflationary costs, the CPI general.
At least, right.
Yeah, so to flatten out the medical costs for at least a couple of years and to have some economies of scale by bringing in the 2 outlying unions into the overall city package saved the city a lot of money. I'm certain of that. The other thing, in our case, I don't know about Tom's, but we actually had a wage reopener for that final year, which we set aside to go into a new contract. And it seems like a lifetime ago, but people forget that before the big crash, that inflation was quite high that year. It was about 4.6% in 4.6% in 2009, and I'm expecting that we would have gotten that raise in 2009, being the 2008 CPI. Instead, that year, we negotiated for 3, and then we ended up giving that back. So my folks ended up going flat in a year that followed the preceding year with 4.6% inflation.
My head is
Was that too many numbers?
No,
Oh.
I'm just getting really pissed that it's like, I want my firemen and my police officers that have to respond to either save me or out of a burning building or to get some asshat off of me in an alley or whatever else. I want to get it on a coupon.
Yeah.
I just want, can we just get these guys off Craigslist? I mean, can't we just offer people the best? Why shouldn't we? This is a great town. We have a $10 million surplus. We've been lied to about that. Why can't we just get the best and the brightest for here? Instead, we're like, hey guys, can we, really?
Shann, one of the things I've heard a lot of stuff mentioned about our contract. I even take calls from members of the public, but one of the things I'd encourage people to do rather than listen to a talking head, which I am in this case, you can go to our website at apdea.net and look at our contract. It is online for any member of the public to take a look at. Our wage tables are on there.
That is so behind closed doors, fellas.
It's right there, and we had interviewed some assembly candidates, and one of them came in, and I flat out told him, I said, hey, my folks make between this bottom wage and this top wage. I think it's pretty comparable to other skilled labor, and this candidate agreed. And I said, there's no secrets here.
Right.
It's just out there.
And it's